Welcome to the MVP show. We've had some pretty enthusiastic MVPs on the show, and this MVP is no exception at all. I've also heard our next guest is a keen dancer. So let's hear from our Indian MVP, Deepesh Somani, a 4-time MVP and active member in the India-based Dynamics community. We'd love to see the community in India grow, especially to see more females attain their MVP status in Microsoft business applications. So that could be Flow, that could be Power Apps, or that could be, Dynamics 365. Full show notes, you can visit nz365guide.com/78. Now let's get on with the show. Hi, I'm here with Deepesh on the MVP show. Deepesh, how are you?
I'm very good, Mark. I hope you are good as well. And thanks for inviting me to the show.
My pleasure, my pleasure. It's a lovely sunny day here in London. It looks like winter might be almost over, so I'm pretty happy about that. But tell me, where in the world are you at the moment? Where are you working from, and what type of work are you working on at the moment?
Right, Mark. So I'm also at a very, very sunny place. I'm in Singapore for the moment. I'm working as a senior architect, and where I've been working for a while now has been India. I've been working with a firm called as Dynamicity there. What I'm doing right now is I've come here very recently in January, and I'm doing some kind of stuff around consulting, a mix of pre-sales, delivery, the standard stuff that we do in a typical senior architect or a solution architect role. Back in India, my work also involved, there are so many hats when you join, Dynamicity was a startup back in 2017 in January, a start and so. And there were a lot of roles to do, like someday you are a BA, other day you're a practice lead, you're mentoring, you're doing a lot of stuff there, right? When you have to manage something from scratch. So yeah, that are the kind of things I've been doing. Sorry, I took too much time.
No, that's fine. That's very interesting. So can you tell us a bit about you and kind of how you got into this, into business at Microsoft Business Applications, and kind of what's your journey from not knowing anything about it to getting into it, and then forward to today where we are now.
I have seen so many of journey has been very simple. Always take new challenges, so you're not bored. That's the first point. Then do it well. Then try to do it as great as you can, and you'll always have something good coming your way. I think that's been a short brief of how it has been. I started as a information technology trainer, not in Microsoft space, back in the days in 2006 in Java. So I was a Java guy when it was used to be by Sun Microsystems. So I'll be doing a lot of trainings and stuff. My first job was a .NET engineer with Infosys Technologies back in 2008. And they were developing some kinds of applications in CRM 4.0. So towards the end of my journey there, around 2009, 10, and then over in 11 was the first interactions with Dynamics CRM 4.0 version. Then I have worked with Microsoft Global Delivery in India for almost 2.5 years. That was where I was acquainted with a lot of different variations of 4.0, and then 2011 and henceforth. Thereafter, I have not left this technology. I've changed some partners in Western Europe. I've done a job as a senior analyst in an internal IT Fortune 50 client called a SanDisk, pendrive manufacturer. And finally, I was back to India because my health was not doing really well. I had cervical issues, and I had a lot of health issues in cold climate. So I came back to India in 2017, joined a startup there, again continued on to the same journey. From the technology perspective, it slowly moved towards from being a technical consultant to be a architect, and then last year and a half or so has been more around pre-sales, demos, and user trainings. I've been training in Dynamics since almost 6.5 years here, on and off. And it has been mostly restricted to India, but last year was the first year where I really started doing remote trainings off to US with some training vendors and partners, and then also doing some of the Asia Pacific trainings, whatever I could travel literally to. And this has also been on and off, but last year and a half or two has also been as trainer. Apart from that, I started blogging. When I went out of Microsoft, I had a thirst of knowledge, and in Microsoft, you have so much resources as a Microsoft employee, right? But when I went out in 2013, the first thing that I lost is that knowledge and those resources. So I started doing my blog. I started even, making tools, and in the process, I wrote for almost it's close to 400 blogs at this point. And recently in the FeedSpot ranking it came to 48th, which is very good. I feel really good about that. I never thought when I started that it will be there. I did write 16 tools. Some are client side, some are server side. My first XRM tool is coming very soon, but I had developed the entire layer because I didn't know back in the days of 2013, 14 that there is something like a toolbox or something. And I continued on to develop those kind of tools client side. Before activity timeline came on, I really made an activity timeline for free for everybody, things like that. And 2016, I started writing books. So those have been my most difficult projects. First was so how Pact Publishing came over to me was like, we want to do a black book of dynamics, and this is the first time in the series, mastering dynamics here in 2016. And again, since it was a challenge, I said, let's take it on. That became the most difficult challenge. It's so difficult and different to write a book as compared to a blog or anything that I've done in the past. Yeah.
So just on that book front, kind of what's kind of your process when it comes to writing a book? Like, just walk me through, where do you start, and then kind of ultimately through to publishing. What is that journey for writing a technical book?
First of all, I had been submitting proposals for a long time because I wanted to write at some point. And since I had been doing blogging for 5+ years, I thought it's good. Like, you have the skill now. Publisher has to accept it. So there's a marketing team that works at the start of it, and they have to accept your book. It's not like it also has stages of a business process flow. Okay. I never knew about that, to be very honest. So the first stage is the marketing team and the proposal stage, just like what we do with IT projects. So the publisher or the publishing house has to approve it. They see whether there's value into it. So there are a lot of technical books. There were a lot of certification books. My differentiator was I will write. I always found it a gap in the book side, that something which will be scenario based, right? Rather than telling me a feature, right? This is adventure works or something like that. More relevant scenario, like this is a banking scenario. This is a telco scenario, something like that, right? And then tell me the new features and make me learn dynamics. So whenever you go to trainings or I would attend something, I would always find that gap. That's where I thought that that's kind of an area which I can say. So it was kind of a techno-functional area. I pitched that proposal. So rather than just learning sales, this will be case studies. Like let's say you are Mark, and then Mark is an administrator, and they have been doing business like this one, and this kind of requirements come now. How to utilize the feature, right? Like that. So that was the book. That was the first book, and the book process is very difficult. You write the book, then there are series of checks like quality check, technical team checking it. There is a technical reviewer or set of reviewers you have to choose from the community or Microsoft or something like that. Then you have to provide the code pieces, working code pieces. You have to take the screenshot. Finally, there is a marketing team. There is a project lead from the publisher. There is a content editor that works with you. There is a quality check editor that works with you. So every chapter might be like you might be seeing the same thing at least 3 or 4 times, right? There are comments, and then you have to clear it out. And then there are English skills also, right? Like you have to correct that. In a blog, sometimes we are free, but in a book you have to be very standard. In a blog, I can go and later correct it. In a book, I can't, right? So you have to be absolutely spot on. And this process can take a while. And I was not doing well with my health also at that time. So rather than 8 months, it took year and a half, but I did complete it. Next one, I did co-author with Nishant. And this was a fully technical book, Dynamics 365 application development. This was more of scenarios, but technical solutions, right? Intended for techie audience, more for architect, but even pre-sales and functional guys will get something out of it. We did talk about integration scenarios with Azure and learning path, and wherever we don't find documentation typically, we took those topics as chapters. The current one and the last one, which I'm finishing, almost finishing, and going to be released February, again delayed due to the platform is changing. So a lot of things that I wanted to write now, if I planned for it 12 months before, it is very difficult to comprehend, right? So that has before. It is very difficult
And
to
so what's that one going to be
comprehend, right?
called?
So that has been, this one is second edition to the first mastering series on 2016. This is mastering Dynamics 365. Yeah.
In this book, are you just doing everything around the unified interface? Because one of the challenges at the moment, and I've been involved recently in creating all the new courseware for Microsoft that's about to be released, and one of the biggest challenges for me is, right, what do you do in the maker experience, and what do you do, if you like, from the classic or the solutions area, a customization area in Dynamics, and it's almost changing on a daily to weekly basis, And so, one of our aims was to make sure that everything was represented in the unified interface, because that's the future, right? Anything that you're doing in Classic is on a quick timeline to becoming obsolete. So in this Mastering Dynamics, have you taken a very much a focus around doing as much as possible from a unified interface kind of storytelling perspective, or are you still pretty much the classic UI focus?
Right, that's a very good question. So that's actually the answer to why the delay, right? Like we were almost close to completing everything, and then when you talk to a publisher, it's a bit different than talking to Microsoft, right? Or to talk to a person who knows the ecosystem. So it was very, very difficult to explain how aggressive it is and why it has to be in the unified interface. For a publisher, it is more of this sort, Mark, like, oh, we have some dates, and that's why we want to reach faster, because the things are changing, so it will become irrelevant. But I tried to, this is not a technical reasoning, but I tried to reason it is more relevant that most of the things are in unified interface, right? And some of the things are not there. Let's see that from 2016 to 365, some of the chapters that I had planned 12 months back were just updates, some updates here, some updates there, like that, right? Not a full revisit. But what happened is now 75% of the book is a rewritten, revisit kind of it, right? Like, though it's a second edition, it's really like a totally fresh new book, focusing on unified interface, trying to write best practices around customizations, and those notes and all that has been challenging because it's pretty new. So did consult with as many people as I could, and that has been the reason it has been delayed. Yeah. So to answer your question, it has been difficult to tell the publisher why we are being delayed. For sometimes for the person who doesn't know the technology, it is difficult to understand. But it is only going to be relevant if it focuses on the unified interface. That is correct. So yeah, that has been the process, and it has been very, very challenging because things change so quickly. Like if they come, a quality team typically comes to me after a month or so, and by that sometimes the UI is totally gone. Like, so I have been having, that's always a challenge. So then you have to explain to them, like, okay, now we have to do it again altogether, correct? So it has been a lot of iterations like that. And I really appreciate that if you're creating that content, I can understand the pain. I think it will be a very painful and thorough process where you have to be doing so many rounds, right? That's how it changes. You don't know sometimes, like, it has changed.
So, are you about to retire, bought a Learjet and things like that with all your royalties off your books?
I've not yet got to royalties somehow. So I'm not 100%. I write it in a different way. I say that this is the fixed price, right? And this is more of something I'm doing for community, not for money. I like to write passion related thing. And there are other areas where I generate royalty from, right? So that's okay. Books, I really don't, I have not even got a cent of royalty till date. I'm very honest on
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing, because, a lot of people, well, I see, and I when I'm talking about this, I'm meaning larger than just the BizApps community. I've had conversations with a lot of other, people that have written technical books. And one of the challenges, one of the things they do it for, right, is first to establish credibility. If you're establishing your voice in the public arena as you write a book, and it's a smart way to really establish credibility because you're really putting your, all your thoughts, etc., around a technology on paper. But of course, the for me, kind of one of my things that I juggle in my mind is the ratio between the cost, and I mean the cost of the hours of your life you give away to write a book, right? And the benefit of having that book then in market and potentially making earnings. I spoke to another MVP that had a book that was massively famous in the space, and his total income from it was well less than $20,000 for its entire lifetime. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's for, because the thing about tech books, they're generally quite large, right? They're thick books. And so there are a lot of work has gone into them. And sometimes I wondered, like, you obviously feel that you're getting a benefit though, because you're about to publish your third, which is, phenomenal. 3 books now in this dynamics arena.
Right. Like I think there's no money in the books, to be very honest, if it's a very niche technology. So recently, what starts happening, it's just like any other new thing you enter into, right? So what starts happening is now they started pitching me more core topics like they do more research. So like C sharp book, correct? So but I really do not have bandwidth to write that. Another thing which after writing 3, you really know the stuff, right? So the pain is they count by page, right? Your initial contribution as an author is counted by the pages, number of pages. Each page will cost almost this one, and each page will take like, let's say, 2.5 days. But that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Yeah, like, and then there is a lot of stress, commitment, and all that kind of stuff. I think I'm way better off doing self-publish going forward, looking for as many people who want to contribute and write. It's not a one-man effort. It's a very difficult thing to do as a single person. And it's better that 2, 3, 4 people combine and do a self-publish. There are tools out there which makes it very easy to get it out to all kinds of mediums. And at least whatever you're doing, whatever reflection will come, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I've only written for my sheer passion. Sorry to break you.
No. That totally makes sense. Like Packet has approached me a couple of times in the past, and I read through their terms and conditions, and that was enough for me to go, no, thank you. I just, one of their clauses in there is that they have the rights to your next book that you want to write, right? You actually, they have kind of this capture forward clause, which, I didn't like. And then, of course, the whole self-publishing has become a big thing. And my wife is a writer, and last year she wrote a book and we self-published it, including a paperback version and a Kindle version. And we found that, that journey nowadays is becoming so much more simple. And the beauty is you 100% have not given away your rights to that material to anybody else. It's 100% yours. At any time that you want to stop making it available to the public, bang, you can make that choice. And so, yeah, I would have thought now for you that, self-publishing must be, if you're going to keep writing and you enjoy that space, I think self-publishing has got to be a massive opportunity area. Now with Amazon's global reach to the extent that it has.
Yeah, like I totally agree to that, Mark. There are some proposals that the publisher doesn't agree to, and it's very difficult to explain to them how the industry is moving sometimes, right? So I have those proposals already prepared, and people we keep talking to rather than, let's say a technical book has 10 to 12 chapters averagely, right? So if 3 or 4 good people do combine, it's a good proposition to do, right? And it's a good contribution as well. It's not a bad contribution to do, and it feels good, right? And then you can choose your timeline rather than sometimes it can be not 6 months and 10 months, right? Between the folks, you can always have that flexibility, and because everybody knows the technology, right? So I think the next books will be in that area, and I doubt if the idea that I am going to pick will be unique, and they are not anything to in the extension to what has already been written, right? Pack teams have been great. right? Pack teams that I've worked with have been great. I've made some good friends with them. I've understood the process. So you have to understand the process, right? I didn't have anybody to understand that process. What is the process to do this? Now that you know it, definitely, I can at least, it gives you that independence as an author to contribute. And that I think is a logical direction. Similarly with the blogs, right? Like after a stage, you want other kinds of contribution. So moving into this is my first podcast ever, right? So moving into podcast and trying to learn from the greats of the business, grades of the industry, and then doing some alternative stuff, right? Like this is again newer things, and then it will definitely give newer kind of enthusiasm to continue on the journey, right? Everything follows.
So what's next? What do you, as in like you've talked about, do you think do you definitely going to get into podcasting? I just noticed that your next book is still called Dynamics 365. Do you think you're going to pivot more and talk about the Power Platform, being that that's really becoming, if you like, Microsoft's story, that everything, it underpins Dynamics, yes, but, do you see yourself pivoting into that whole Power Platform space from a authorship and creative?
Yeah, last 3 years, what I have picked is let's talk about from that perspective. 2017, I picked portals and I did a lot of portals work. I talked and wrote a lot about portals. Last year was field service majorly. I think it's logical for contributions that are required on Power Platform, definitely. Other alternative areas are like I'm thinking towards how machine learning, custom machine learning scenarios, right? Something like that. And then whatever challenge comes on a customer journey or a Microsoft journey or interacting with our MVP community or Microsoft community in general, right? That can be the direction. So key areas, yes, I think there is still space left to contribute in Power Platform, definitely. Then still field service. There is a lot of things that can be demonstrated, that can be shown or talked about. So I see some certain times some gaps in that. And I think whatever I can not read or listen to or see or a webcast, I will like to contribute to. Not as a single entity, might be with collection of people, whoever wants the contribution, right? Like that.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So tell me, what was your path to becoming an MVP, and kind of what have you enjoyed about it, and what do you might not enjoy about being an MVP?
So my path to becoming an MVP was when I went out of Microsoft, as I already told. I was not having resources, I was not having knowledge. I didn't know how to write unsupported stuff. We do need to require, we sometimes need to write unsupported stuff as well. And we only used to know the supported side of things, the recommended route, and not much workarounds, right? So when I got out in an internal IT setup in SanDisk, I needed to do a lot of stuff. I had to write a lot of automation tools. Some of them were generic problems. And then I used to ask questions in community. Finally, I found out that so many less people used to answer in community back in 2012, 13, like that, right? So somebody needs to come in and answer. So there were folks such as Aline, myself, right? And Nishant always used to be there. Nishant was Microsoft, three, four folks like that. And we used to write. Then I made my a personal target that I will at least answer 100 questions a day, right? I don't care if
Wow, wow, 100 a day.
100 a day.
Wow,
I
wow.
need knowledge coming my way because I will not get any resources here in this setup, right? So I can't lose my trajectory of gaining in a path on this product. Then whatever automations I will do, I will put up a tool. I will write a blog. First 6 months, my blog got only 350 hits, right? But I was disciplined. You always have to be disciplined, no matter how talented you are. I kept on writing. Then I got the magic blog, and which has been read like so many times, which was how to improve CRM for form load performance, right? That is a generic
Wow.
problem. I
So
collated every.
that one post was a massive post for you.
Yes, it still remains among the top 10 posts that I will ever write so far, right? Or I will write because it's such a generic problem. Everybody will face that in their career, definitely even within first month. Somebody will tell this is loading very slow. What can we do about it? So what I did was not only wrote my tips, whatever I could find, I wrote about browser settings, I wrote about whatever I collected with my knowledge in community. I gave links openly and referred. You can refer to this person. He has done a great job at giving certain kind of solution and approaches, and write in this way, and collated everything. And this was a very big blog. After that, there was no looking back on the blog front. Business process flows did not have much branching at that point, right, in 2013, and that was required. And I did create blogs and scripting knowledge that was required to be done because of needs, and that's how I kept writing over time. I've done different kinds of series, including when I saw tip of the day, I said, yeah, quick tips are good. They are short, crisp, and they should talk about something. Zero code development, which is like as the technology is moving towards the approach where you don't code, you configure and customize more. Try to give solutions to generic problem requirements without writing code, right? Maintainable and scalable, whatnot. Then best practices of doing things, and then showing industry experiences of all kinds of SMEs, including MVPs, Microsoft folks, and those who are not yet there, but their journey has been phenomenal. Learn from their experience, because I know you will be hearing this question a lot more than me, Mark. How do I scale my career in this ecosystem? So Dynamics Verified Professional was a way of saying, hey, look at how this particular SME has grown their career, listen to their journey, and get inspired, and maybe you'll learn on the way. So gradually the blog continued on happening. So after contributing for a year and a half and two, people started telling that you need to be nominated, and I really don't know who was the exact person, but probably it was my manager in SanDisk who nominated. And self-nominations really don't work. I don't think they would work, right?
I think they literally get thousands of self-nominations, and that's I think why recently they've switched off the ability to self-nominate.
Yeah, so it was sheer contributions, and then yeah, it worked out. One day I got that mail. Every year I look forward to that mail now. It's part of life.
Yeah.
That's the good part of being an MVP. It has changed my mindset. That is very important. It has got me. The first time I was at the summit in Seattle was a life changer kind of for me. I started seeing how great people think, right? How the best in the industry think and what do they do. And it was so inspiring. And in the last 3.5 years, I've only kept on improving at a very rapid pace as a professional, as a person. And then downside, right? The only reason my cervical problem happened is because of being an MVP. I would be contributing for so many hours sitting in wrong posture. I always tell everybody sit in proper posture. Give time to your work and life. That is very important. That has caused a lot of health problems. Sometimes I've been in trouble because you need to have a mix at some stage, but you're giving your personal time to contribute, right? So there are other people that want that time. That's your family, your friends, your hobbies. So last years, I've started to work on that as well. Still a work in progress. Sometimes when you're stuck, I just want to focus on dynamics still, right? So that has been the only downside. Another one which everybody talks about, to keep yourself upskilled, learning and unlearning, learning, unlearning, unlearning, learning. That's a very difficult cycle at this stage with Dynamics 365, right? There are so much stuff going on. There's so much to learn. So these have been pain points, but yeah, you have to get along with it, because finally we will have an awesome platform, an awesome product. It's already awesome, but it will be really great after the journey is through.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's getting better all the time. Listen, we've already burnt through pretty much a half hour, so I just want to end with a wrap up question. What's your best purchase under $100?
So my best purchase under $100 is a smartwatch gadget which I took from Alibaba. It helped me really focus and gives me reminders and stuff like that.
Deepesh, thanks for coming on the show. How can people connect with you if they want to find you online?
So I'm on Twitter, MS Dynamics blog. My blog URL is dynamicsofdynamicscrm.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well. My community mail is deepeshsomani@hotmail.com. And that's all the mediums I can provide to connect.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you're interested in discussing what is involved in becoming an MVP in Microsoft Business applications, you may want to consider joining my 90-day mentoring challenge. My next intake is in March, so sign up today at nz365guy.com/90daymc. Or you can go to my website and navigate to the page from the menu called Mentoring. It's totally free. And the last time I did this mentoring, last year, I had over 60 applications from 10 different countries around the world. You can see testimonials from those people that went on this journey to improve their career prospects from last year. And I'd love to be able to help you as well. Remember, full show notes for this show can be found at nz365guy.com/78. See you next time. Power to the platform.